Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, produced by Visual Communications. My name is Jeremy, and I'm a programmer for the festival. I'm zooming in to you all today from downtown Los Angeles, but I want to recognize that I'm on land belonging to the Tongva people. We'd like to thank everyone for making this festival possible. Special thank you to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Comcast Universal, California Arts Council, SAG-AFTRA Producers Industry Advancement and Cooperative Fund, the National Endowment for the Arts, HBO and Warner Media, and a special thanks to all of our partner orgs who continue to support visual communications. And let's start our artist conversation. I'm very excited today to welcome the director of When We Walk, Jason De Silva. Jason,
Hi.
how are you doing?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Very good. So we're excited to have you here today and talk about your most recent film. And I wanted to start with the making of and the genesis of this project. It's sort of a follow-up to a film you made about 6 or 7 years ago, When I Walk. Played at Sundance, you got an Emmy Award for it. So when you started thinking about this second film, when were you realizing you wanted to make it, and how did it become sort of this letter to your son?
So yeah, that's a good question. So I think when I first started the film, it was to make a film about accessibility, so wheelchair accessibility. And my son was going to be in the film, so I shot a lot of it, but it didn't realize that the film was going to be a love letter to my son, until probably about 2016 March. So around that time, that's when Jason's mom moved to Texas all of a sudden. And the story really became much more than just a story of wheelchair accessibility and disability rights.
And there's certainly, you talk about accessibility rights in this movie. You do mention it a lot, but now it seems to be very much in the context of even more personal, because it's how it's affecting, the ability to travel to Austin to visit your son. You even talk about Texas's healthcare system, which is atrocious. So talk about weaving that sort of those two storylines together, and maybe what was left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. So there actually wasn't that much left on the cutting room floor. So I just pulled together a lot of the footage that I had shot before I started this. Then I did a lot of deep research. So doing a lot of research and it was all in real time, like how bad Texas is and whether I could live in a different state. So all that was unfolding in filmmaking, but it was being uncovered by my research as I was living the film. So it really, really was a huge revelation that I have no option to live near my son. So that's what made it so. That really was what kicked the film off. Is coming to that realization.
So between sort of When I Walk, your first film, and then When We Walk, this one, in your research, how have you found sort of accessibility and disability rights? Have they advanced? Is it sort of advanced some areas and not advanced in other areas? And of course, like Texas, where it doesn't seem to advance at all. What have you found sort of in these past 7 years of making both these movies?
So when it comes to accessibility, so we're talking about just like wheelchair access, things like that, that really has not changed. It's like changing a little bit. It's getting a little bit better, but I'm worried that we're taking a backslide. So since the ADA, so since the passing of the ADA in 1980s, which grants rights for people with disabilities, I feel like we've taken a backslide. So we just have to make sure that that's not done. The other part, so in terms of moving from one state to another state, there really is nothing that's available. So hopefully this pandemic and this time is going to open a lot of eyes and maybe changes in power, make it more possible. But it really is just not possible for somebody with a disability to move from one state to another state. They need to have at least like a 3-month window of just having no care, which is pretty impossible for a lot of people like myself.
Have you seen? I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, about the pandemic. Have you seen any subtle shifts yet so far since we've sort of gone into this lockdown mode in March?
Nothing good yet, so nothing good, but hopefully there will be. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of just changes that will come if there's a change in administration. And it does look pretty nice. It's like Medicaid expansion. So it is going to be possible, I think. And fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But for now, it really is. New York is like the best place for me to be.
Got it. And I agree with you. My fingers are crossed as well for this
Yeah.
November. So I want to talk about your filming process and your process filming this movie. What is your process sort of being both the director and the lead of the film? You're in most every shot of the film and you're also directing. How do you work?
Yeah, so it really is. So I was a filmmaker 15 years before I got a mess. So I had time to really learn how to do the craft. And then when I got a mess, I learned how to work with other people in a big way as the director. But just knowing that I need to have a trusted camera person, I need to have a trusted editor. So I would work with them to make the film to what it is. It's all, I've done it for so long now, but it is something that like I just have to make sure trusted editor, trusted DP, and then I'm good to go.
What kind of conversations are you having with them during shooting? Is it one of those things like in the morning you meet and you say, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I want to capture, or you're just like, just keep the camera rolling and get everything, or is it sort of pretty kind of planned out about what you're doing for the day?
No, so for shooting, it depends. So it depends if I'm like on, so I know like part of it was filming, going to Utah in like part of the film, or part of the film is filming in Texas. So we just have shot lists and things like that. But when it comes to editing, I feel like we have so much material that I can craft together the material, and I really can work like all the time. Like I can work morning till night, and just as long as I have somebody to work with, I can do it. So bringing it up, I'm working on the new film. So this is a trilogy. So When We Walk is the second of 3 parts. The third will be When They Walk, and I'm working with my editor now. He's in New York right now. I'm in Austin, so he's able to work with me, and we're using Adobe Premiere. We're using something that's called Team Viewer. So Team Viewer allows it so he can operate my computer, and I could watch, and we can work back. It's really nice.
Nice. That sounds very cool, actually. And I was going to ask you to go into the editing process. So it sounds like you're very hands-on with editing. You're there throughout the entire process, right?
Yeah, I have to be. That's like, it's hard to do these films. It's like, I wouldn't be able to do it justice if I was doing my film about myself, like a first person account of my own experiences. I want to be involved, like from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But do you ever find that you have to, I mean, it is your story and it's your account and you're directing it, you're editing it and the writing and everything. Do you ever find you have to take a step back from it? How do you sort of try to distance yourself to keep perspective and to sort of keep an objective view of everything while you're
Yeah,
making this?
that's good. So it's like just time, I think. So I didn't for when we walk as much. I would have liked to a little bit more, but I am going to for when they walk, and I did for when I walk. So having a breathing room where you can show the film to others and see what they think, and it's really important.
Um, Definitely. The also in editing, you talk a lot about to documentary filmmakers and like, oh, I found the story in the edit room. But it sounds like you sort of kind of found that story when you mentioned in 2016 when your son, and his mom moved to Texas. So it sounds like that's when the story was found. So, and how did you work to put it all together in the editing room, and did it further evolve even more while you were editing, like discovering new nuggets of story or whatever?
Yeah, I did. I think that it really was like so. Really, the part when they moved to Texas was maybe at the 20% mark or 25% mark. So the rest of it just got crafted by over time. So through editing or through just like being on production. So the film ended up taking 6 years to make. So it was just one of those things you said to live it and then edit it, and that's exactly what we did.
That's a lot, and documentaries definitely take a very long a very long time to make. I'm curious, you made the movie about yourself, so you put yourself in it. What kind of conversation, getting sort of family involved, your parents are in it. Is it sort of easy to get them to be on camera to talk about you and talk about the film and all that stuff, or was it rather difficult?
It's always a challenge, more so with my mom than my dad. You can see in this film, my mom was not really wanting to do it. I think that's because she was such a big part of When I Walk that she didn't really want to be heavily involved in this film. So I just kind of play, like it's she's still a mom and I'm still her son. So she'll do whatever I need her to do. And it was exciting, like to have my dad in it. So for the first time, my dad was in my film. And he really played a big part to bring the film to where it is. And just us sitting and bonding and talking and having deep conversations, that was like awesome because my dad's, it's a typical South Asian dad, he's there for support, but not so much for like deep emotional support. But that's not to say that he didn't try for this film. I have to give it to myself. I asked all the right questions to get him to open up, but he was open. He was like willing to do it.
That's awesome, and it's great that you have sort of a generational story now. You have your dad and you and your son, sort of those different storylines
Yeah.
sort of merging in this movie. What did your son make of all this while filming? I know he was pretty young, so it probably maybe it was just more exciting to be around a camera or be in front of a camera for him.
Yeah, more that he was like 3 to 5.5 years old.
Hmm.
So he was 6 years old. So he was just it was fun for him, and it was fun for me to really bond in filmmaking. So like showing Jace what it looks like to be on camera, then doing things like, okay, we're gonna do a extreme long shot, then come run up here to a close up, just to get shots like that. Like it's nice for me to be able to teach him some stuff about filmmaking, but also be able to bond with him. It's really nice.
Yeah, it seems really great that you were able to share your passion with him. in a very real way. Does he want to be a filmmaker now? As he talked about making movies?
Yeah, I think he like is taking it in, but at the same time, I don't want to tell him he should be a filmmaker. I'd let him like go his own path. But it's what I'm still like I'm a filmmaker. I'm around him all the time, so he's gonna if he wants to be a filmmaker, it's all open to him.
So I'm curious of when making to these movies, and now it's what's going to be a trilogy with When They Walk. If you sort of got any inspiration from other documentaries that sort of tackle sort of very personal issues, with these very first person documentary features. I'm wondering if you had any inspiration, you have some favorites that you have.
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me think. So there's trying to think of some of my favorite. There's a lot of films out there that do work, but I think that I'm more inspired by. There's a lot of films out there. If you throw it, there's like Earl Morris. There's Morgan Spurlock, Supersize Me. I'm not inspired by those as the story, but I'm inspired by the craft. And it was nice for me to see growing up and learn to be a filmmaker to do that. But I am actually inspired by first person stories of people with disability filmmaking. So I just love to see that stuff because it doesn't exist, and I think it should exist more.
Mm-hmm.
But so like an example is like this is like there's only few films, but When Billy Broke His Head is one. It's called When Billy Broke His Head. But yeah, you see James LeBrecht won Sundance this year with a film. It was opening film Sundays in January, but it was about the history of the ADA,
Mm-hmm.
and that was pretty awesome.
Nice. And speaking of these first person sort of very personal stories, I think, in these movies, you're very vulnerable and you're very, very honest in telling your story. And what advice, would you give to some new filmmakers that kind of want to do the same thing, that really want to put themselves in their story to be about them and their either struggle or personal life or whatever?
It, it's really hard. So like, I want to give them like advice, but I definitely want to say it's really hard. So like the reason why I've been able to do it is because I was trained in this. So like my degree program was actually in performance art, and I ended up getting my first film in Sundance, and it wasn't about me or anything. So in my films, I drew upon my degree program, which is like studying artists like Yoko Ono or Vito Acconci, stuff like that, where people were really vulnerable on camera, but they're really experimental films, and those are my sources of inspiration. But yeah, for other filmmakers that want to do this, I would say just go for it. Like really go for it. It's difficult, but please go for it because it's great for your career, your craft, and being able to tell your story, and really for the world to see. Yeah, it's hard to get films like this to be told. So, it's not hard to get films like this to be told because people love these stories, but it's hard to tell these stories.
Um, that is fascinating that your degree is in performance art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What school did you go to get it?
So I went to Emily Carr. It's in Vancouver.
Okay.
So I got my bachelor's degree in it's called intermedia. So it's studying all the different mediums and really looking at time and space as conceptual mediums. So both filmmaking and performance art fall within that. So that's why you know it so well.
Nice. It's very interesting. So we're about to wrap up here, but I want to talk about what's next for this movie. I want to make sure people know and folks know how to support it. You know, if there's, Twitter and social media and everything. You already mentioned that you're working on the third film in this trilogy, so that's exciting. But also I want to know what you'd like to see, what we can do to help support accessibility and disability rights, especially us able-bodied people who need to, work and put up this fight just as much, and more.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of a log line of this next film, so it's following the making of AccessMap. So AccessMap, so AXSMAP.com. So it's an app that I started maybe, been a long time now, like 15 years. The iPhone 3G came out. And then I was like, wow, this is a great way to look at all the places that are disability friendly or wheelchair accessible and put them on a map. So that's exactly what this new film is about. So what people could do if they can is go on the map. So that's AXSMAP.com. And then you can just sign up there and start rating some places. It's really cool. It's cool because this project is starting now, but you can be involved like years before it's done. Because every little helps. It helps make the world more accessible for people like myself.
Nice. That's fantastic. So it's AXSMAP.com.
Yeah, that's
Right. So
right.
definitely check out that website and help in any way you can. Jason, this is it's a really beautiful movie. It's very touching. I really, really enjoyed watching it. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time today to talk with us at the festival.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim.
And just so everyone at home knows, make sure you tune in to When We Walk. It's available all weekend through Sunday night. So don't forget to check this film out. Check out the rest of the films that are premiering over the next couple weeks at festival.vcmedia.org, and use our hashtags LAAPFF 2020. And again, thank you, Jason, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you very much.